No Nose Knows. Chapter 5. Terms and Conditions Apply. Part 2.
And then I decided to move to Philadelphia. Not so crowded, but still close enough to see everyone.
I could see why, Bean chuckled.
What's it like in Salt Lake?
Well, every stereotype you have about what a small town is like, and then you've got it.
Really?
Alright, that's a bit of an exaggeration, he chuckled. It's more like if you took a quarter of Canterlot and placed it down somewhere. We've got some theaters and museums and such, but there's probably not enough there to keep a filly like you entertained. If you go to Salt Lake, you're gonna be out in the woods, and that's our biggest claim to fame.
It still sounds like a nice place,
She replied.
Maybe I'll come visit sometime.
Bean's gaze stayed over her green pools before him for a moment, and then he looked away and cleared his throat. Well, I'm sorry again for running into you,
That's alright,
she replied.
This was nice. Where are you off to now?
I'm not sure. Since you're something of a local, what would you suggest?
Let's see. Have you taken the tour of the palace yet?
Yeah, I've been there, he replied a bit awkwardly.
Did you visit the gardens? They're really quite amazing.
I was... he stalled for a second. I was there yesterday.
Oh, did you like it? Did you get to see Princess Celestia? I visit every time I'm there, but she's never out there. I'd love to meet her sometime.
You've never seen her? He asked in the hope that she'd forget her question.
It's actually pretty rare for any pony to see her, even if you live in Canterlot. Her schedule and duties keep her pretty busy. She doesn't have a lot of time to just walk around.
Oh,
Don't feel bad.
she replied, and she patted his hoof gently.
Even if you don't see her, there's lots of other stuff to make memories with. Why don't you just go and check out the bazaar?
What's that? He asked as they both stood.
Big open market, not too far from here. There's a merchant there from all over just selling about anything you can imagine. You ever had a Mechanaria nut?
Once or twice.
You gotta try one from the stands. I don't know what they do to them, but they are delicious.
Bean smiled wide. Well, lead on then. Maybe I'll find something to write about. She gave him a winning smile back, took one of his hooves in hers, and gently began leading him towards the bazaar.
Princess Luna?
Twilight Sparkle, she shouted, but then she grunted as a large thump pushed on the door that she was trying to hold shut.
Thank the great Hasbro. No time to explain. I need you to go and get a broom or mop or anything that will hold this door shut. Is Celestia in there?
Luna,
Came the Princess of the Sun's voice, along with another loud thump.
there's no cake in here. You lied. I'm gonna send you the moon for this.
No time, Twilight,
Luna admonished. Quickly!
What is going on?
Twilight demanded.
Hey, what's this pointy thing on my head?
The closet became quiet for a moment, and Luna looked at Twilight with absolute horror in every line on her face.
It is too late, she whispered. Save yourself!
Celestia suddenly teleported out of the hallway, but she promptly grabbed her head in pain.
Ow! Luna, I don't know what this thing is, but it hurts.
She then noticed Twilight, who smiled sheepishly and took a step backwards.
Twilight!
She roared.
My most faithful student. I haven't seen you in forever. When did you get here? Yesterday? That long ago? Some pony needs to quit messing with time. Not nice to keep Twilight here for so long. Hey! Hey! You have winky dings too! Mine are prettier, but yours is okay too. Luna?
Twilight asked, though her eyes remained on her oddly behaved teacher.
I do not know why she's acting so strangely, but she's been this way since just after lunch. I've had my hooves full just trying to keep her from running into something sharp.
Twilight watched her beloved mentor giggle to herself as she shuffled the feathers of her own wings for a moment, but then her voice went sour in a flash.
Discord, show yourself!
I have nothing to do with this, for the record, his voice replied. But I have quite thoroughly enjoyed the performance. Do you think she does encores?
Where are you?
Shh, you'll startle her, he replied. A clawed arm reached out from nowhere, grabbed Twilight, and pulled her back behind some badly camouflaged duck blind. Note, not blind ducks, because Fluttershy seriously frowned on such behavior. There was, however, a duck and a pair of dark glasses.
What did you do?
She growled at him as Luna tried to keep Celestia from walking away. I recorded the performance for future enjoyment, he offered while he donned a beret and held up a camera at its tripod. I have captured Celestia in her natural environment. My life's work, really. Now I can finally release my documentary, which I shall entitle Celestia, Raw and Uncut.
Discord?
Look, I really had nothing to do with this, he protested, as something in the hallway shattered and Celestia guffawed loudly. I am reformed now, remember? I would hate to see what Fluttershy would say if I did do something to her beloved Diarch. I am innocent on all accounts.
Then what is wrong with Celestia?
She asked in alarm. Discord shrugged. Maybe she got into a bad batch of baked beans, he offered. Those things can cause all sorts of trouble if you're not careful.
You think she ate something that caused this?
I'm just brainstorming over here, he replied as a lightning bolt hit him on the head from a very small thundercloud. Maybe she hit her head on something, maybe some pony. Not me, of course, but some pony else. Used some kind of magic on her.
Of course!
Twilight brightened.
Magic! She must be under the influence of some magical curse. I just need to isolate the cause.
Say it is just me, but is there something different about your teacher? I mean, other than her behavior, of course. Maybe she put on weight?
What?
Twilight balked, desperate to prove him wrong. She quickly jumped out from behind the blind and looked Celestia over intently. One horn, 2 wings, mane and tail, 4 legs. Everything that should be there was there. But then she saw it. Celestia's cutie mark had begun to fade.
Somebody's pulling magic out of her, Twilight shouted. Princess Luna, quick! We need to find out who's stealing her magic!
You're welcome, by the way, Discord shouted as Twilight ran off. Ingrate. Oh well, this will be the perfect home for movie night, he cackled as he began turning the crank on the camera. Maybe finally I'll win the ovation from those moving pictures club. Those guys have been snubbing me for years.
And then she ate it.
Both Sago Lily and Bean laughed. It seems Sago had quite the animated family, and she was a pretty decent storyteller herself. Is she okay? He asked.
Oh yeah,
Sago replied.
She laughs about it now.
That's good. Oh, but I gotta get going, he suddenly said as he noticed the sun slipping behind the horizon. Although a little shaky and with extra wobble. I didn't realize it was so late.
Do you really have to go?
Sago pouted. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I did have a lot of fun today, though. Thanks for showing me around.
No problem.
She smiled at him.
Are you leaving Canterlot anytime soon?
I'm not sure when I'll be heading out.
Well, if you want to hang out again, I'm staying by the shoe and nail.
She pulled the sunflower out from behind her ear and put it behind his.
Just ask for me in the front desk. I'll be there for the next 2 days, and then I gotta head home. I'll show you around some more if you want.
If I can, I'd love that, he replied. Thanks.
If not, it's been fun, Baked Bean.
She replied, and they shook hooves again.
Take care of yourself, eh? Try not to run into anybody else.
I will. You as well, he chuckled.
See ya!
With that, Sago Lily took off and flew towards the hotel. Bean sighed contentedly, and then turned to get back in the palace. Hopefully Celestia wasn't too worried about him, and she found that frequently mentioned loophole. That would make his day complete. He trotted quickly to the palace, and the guards gave him no trouble at the gates or at the front doors. One even told him to head upstairs towards the dining room, and he'd probably find Celestia there, getting ready for the evening. He did so, but found no pony in sight. With a bit of confusion, he turned back into the hallways and began glancing around. Princess? He called out. Are you up here?
Baked Bean!
Luna's voice rattled in the windows, and the light dusting the plaster rained down onto his mane.
If that is you, get your sorry flank up here right this instant!
Now, what had he done? He was beginning to wonder if Luna had even let him breathe in peace anymore. He quickly moved up a flight of stairs, around a corner, and then followed what sounded like a maniacally delirious laughter. "What did you do?" Luna thundered as soon as he met up with the princesses of night and day in the hallway. Celestia was sitting, staring into a vase with wide eyes and giggling slightly as she oohed at her reflection. "I took a tour of the town," he replied in alarm. "What is she doing?"
Admiring herself at the moment, which is better than what she has been doing. You better not have done anything else today.
"I swear, all I did was walk around and toured the city," he replied. "I don't know what it could have done to make this happen." Celestia turned her head, caught the sight of Bean, and took in a huge breath.
Bean!
She shouted with unabashed glee and in the royal Canterlot voice.
You came back! I just knew you would. Luna said you were long gone, that you would run to Slick Rock and hide in your bed, but I said, no way, sister. He's gonna come back. Just you wait. Give me a hug, Bean.
She then reared up and spread both her arms and wings out wide, thus hitting the vase next to her and sending Luna scrambling to catch it before it hit the ground. Celestia then promptly lost her balance, tipped over sideways, then had enough momentum to keep going until she was resting on her neck, upside down, with her rump on the wall and her limbs hanging in odd directions. Her eyes clamped shut, and after that she began snoring. Did she just knock herself out? Bean asked as he took a hesitant step closer.
I certainly hope so.
Luna sighed and gently placed the vase back on the pedestal.
She started acting like this right after lunch. Twilight Sparkle's in the archives right now trying to figure out some pony could pull magic out of her. She has struck naught but a dead end so far.
Pull magic out of her? He repeated.
Yes. I fear time is short. Look at her cutie mark.
Bean did so and gasped. It was so faded that it was hard to make out where it was.
The only thing I can think of that may have caused this has something to do with the marriage clause,
Luna continued.
I am sure she told you she would cease to be a princess if she did not marry you. But if what you say is true and you simply looked at sights, then I am at a loss.
Celestia, Bean said softly, and a tear slid out of his eye. He was rapidly beginning to figure out what had caused all of this. This is my fault. Luna started to say something, but then stopped as Bean quietly stepped over towards the serenely snoring Celestia. There was something in the air, something compelling, something magical, and it seemed to be moving Bean towards his unintentional intended. If whatever he was doing would solve the problem, she was all for him doing it. I'm so sorry, he whispered, once he drew close to her. I did this to you. I hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't want you to lose your magic. I'm sorry. He then went down on his knees, leaned in, and touched his nose to hers. Luna stumbled back a few steps as a sudden rush of energy blasted down the hallway. It swirled and twirled around like some barely contained tornado until it reached Bean and Celestia, golden light beginning to swirl around with the energies, illuminating the hallway and forcing Luna to shield her eyes. Whatever you're doing, Bean, keep doing it, she shouted over the rush of the wind. There was now an increase both in luminosity and in energy, and Bean could feel the individual hairs of his hide standing on end while he stumbled backwards in alarm. Had he screwed up yet again? He didn't have time to ponder the question. There was something resembling a boom. A final surge of energy pulsed through the hall, and then all of the Celestia magic flowed immediately back. The light decreased, the wind died out, and Luna eagerly moved up with Bean to evaluate the hopefully restored Diarch. After a moment, one magenta eye fluttered open, then the other. Celestia groaned. Her legs twitched a bit, although she remained upside down.
Am I on my head?
She asked.
You are,
Luna replied.
And you look like quite the old fool doing it too. Mr. Bean, so good to see you've returned. I suppose I should set the sun now.
Celestia trailed off and her eyes darted about for a moment.
What is it?
Luna asked.
Did I say at some point today that Twilight had pretty wings, but not as pretty as mine? Something to that effect, yes. And by any possibility, did I slide down a banister? 2.
Luna confirmed.
You made it down 5 flights of stairs before falling off the second time. And
Added Celestia, still upside down, with a long, slow blink of both eyes.
did I at any time challenge a duck to race across Canterlot Lake? That was your dream last night,
Said Luna.
thankfully. I believe I have been acting most inappropriately today.
Luna let loose a snort of amusement.
To put it mildly, Twilight is still trying to figure out what is wrong with me. She is. Will you tell her that I'm fine now, and that she doesn't need to worry anymore?
Celestia asked, a hint of fear in her voice.
I think I will go freshen up quickly and then talk to her about my behavior. Of course.
Luna nodded, and then left. Bean gulped as Celestia looked at him.
What have you been doing today?
She asked.
And why is there a sunflower behind your ear?
Celestia did not knock at doors. This was her house, after all. Still, she tapped very gently at this door, and when she received no response after some time, she opened it and sighed at the sight on the other side. There was a bean-shaped lump under the blankets on the bed, and some slight sniffling coming from under it. Luna followed in after her sister, smirked at the sight, but said nothing about it.
I think we need to talk about what happened today.
Celestia gently said as both sisters sat on the floor.
Can you come out, please?
Bean's head poked out and rested on the bed. Celestia shot Luna a look of warning while she stifled a snicker. Even if he resembled a turtle, this was no time for laughter. It was beyond obvious that he felt miserable. His eyes were red from crying, his nose was raw and red from the frequent nose blowings, and his gaze remained fixed in front of him in morose misery.
You weren't responsible for this, Baked Bean.
Celestia began with as much tenderness as she could afford. His bloodshot eyes rolled over to her. I severely doubt that statement. Everything is my fault.
That is a very broad statement. You're responsible for every ill that befalls a pony,
Luna quipped. Bean huffed and let out an annoyed sigh, and let his gaze return despairingly neutral.
Mr. Bean, really?
Luna continued.
The events of today were not your fault.
Ha, he deadpanned. Right. I'm the one who betrayed Princess Celestia, a noble ruler of our land and respected everything. I'm the one who threw away everything we talked about at the first pretty face that trampled me. My stupid impulses nearly destroyed the magic of the sun. I'm pretty sure that what happened was, indeed, my fault. I'm a walking disaster, Doan. Maybe you do need to imprison me in the Everfree.
We are not going to do anything like that,
Luna replied.
It's hardly fair for us to punish you for something we do not even fully understand. Bean, my sister is right,
Celestia added.
Neither of us knew that the binding magics were so strong or so sensitive. If we had known, we would have warned you, and then none of this would have happened. If anything, the fault lies with us for not taking this more seriously.
Bean didn't reply. There were a few moments of silence, but then Celestia had an idea.
Luna, may we have a few minutes, please? I think this might be better if I speak to my fiancé alone.
Bean snickered sadly, but Luna nodded and stood and left without further comment. Celestia sighed as she again turned to Bean, and she noticed a sunflower on his desk. She picked it up with her magic, but transferred into her hooves was a feather soft.
Was she pretty?
I'm pretty sure I'm in enough trouble already, he replied.
Was she?
Celestia pressed. Bean sighed deeply and closed his eyes. Yes.
What was she like?
The look that passed over his face gave away his inner thoughts. After all, he probably couldn't make things much worse at this point. She was loud and talkative. She had a lot of stories, and one reminded her of another, so it was hard to get a word in edgewise. She liked it when ponies praised her. She had deep green eyes and soft blue mane. She laughed a lot, she joked a lot, and she spent most of the afternoon walking and talking with me around Canterlot.
Do you want to meet her again?
A tear escaped. Yes.
Your sadness is not caused by what you think you did to me, Celestia said, nor is it perceived betrayal. Your sadness comes from what you are missing out on.
His eyes rolled back at her with some confusing showing in them, and Celestia nodded before she continued.
If you hadn't bumped into me yesterday, this may have been your moment you found your special sun pony. This kindly mare you met was interesting, amusing, and worth getting to know better. Your depression stems from the fact that despite how well your first encounter with her went, you will never be able to see her again. You will never know if there could have been something because my law forces you to marry me. The future isn't what it could have been, but rather it's something totally out of your control. So, in a way, most of this is probably resentment. You hate what is happening to you and how it has happened. You are angry that you have been stuck with me, a mare that you have no right having any relationship with, and you hate that your life cannot proceed on a normal path.
Silence reigned supreme within the room.
Well,
Celestia stood.
I hope you can forgive me in time. I know what has happened today has greatly upset your life, and believe me, I will regret everything that has happened as well.
This isn't your fault, he said. You weren't the one in the flowers.
But I did write the law,
She replied.
I am the one who stuck my nose into the flowers, and I'm a firm believer in placing appropriate blame in the appropriate place, especially if it involves me. I am not above my citizens in any way. I must be held accountable, the same as any pony else.
Bean didn't reply, but he did appear thoughtful.
I have cleared my schedule for tomorrow, so I may devote my whole efforts to finding your escape from this nightmare.
She continued while she turned towards the door.
I will have a definite answer for you by this time tomorrow. In the meantime, you should continue your activities. I don't know any other issues that should arise, so you should be fine.
Why did the magic start draining out of you? He asked as he sat up. We aren't married yet.
The heart magic I used to bind the law was a very powerful and very complex. The primordial magic of creation, even. When I activated it, it began following us, ensuring that we both followed the terms that had been laid out when you met that mare.
Sago Lily. Bean quietly interrupted.
Very well. When you met Sago Lily, the heart magic sensed that there was a possibility you could betray me. It can feel what is in our hearts and felt that your heart was turning towards Miss Lily. The terms of the marriage clause then began to come to bear, and my magic was siphoned from me, thus causing my odd behavior. When you returned and touched my nose again, you reaffirmed your commitment to me, and the heart magic restored everything to what it should be. So long as you maintain professional relationships with other mares, you cannot cause any further damage.
And there's nothing else?
Twilight has read over the law 7 times now, and can find no other surprises. If she cannot find any, we should be fine.
How did you explain your actions to her?
I told her the truth,
Celestia replied casually.
There really wasn't any other way to explain the situation. It took her a few minutes to fully understand and accept the news, but now she's deeply committed to finding a loophole too. She's also agreed not to speak of this to any pony else, as has the staff who saw my erratic behavior. I don't think either of us want what happened to become general knowledge yet, or ever.
Not really, no.
The staff has also been instructed to take care of any needs you may have tonight.
Celestia stood and placed the summer black on the desk and began moving towards the door.
Simply pull the cord and a servant will be along shortly. You are free to do whatever you like tomorrow. As I said before, please check with me again at nightfall. Good evening.
She then drifted out of the room, but Bean groaned once she was out of sight. Celestia, wait!
Yes?
She poked her head around the doorframe. Bean stalled out, looking at the floor sheepishly, and then looked at her again. Will you be making pancakes again? Celestia smiled softly and warmly.
Just after sunrise.
Could I join you for breakfast again?
I would be honored.
Phew, there we go. Man, that was a little difficult for me to record. Having to change into 3 different female voices at a constant pace was a lot more difficult than it normally is. I think that's up to, I don't know, maybe I'm not drinking enough hot water. Who knows? What I do know, however, are my lovely donators. A special thank you to Chase the Master, HKH4 aka Texture, The Animated Ghost. A special thank you to Triss for the $10, and a drum roll please, a massive $50 donation from Silent Titan. I have no idea why you would donate money to me like that. I put my thing at $3 for a reason, because I give you guys this end card shout out, and I honestly don't think I'm worth all this money, but it's really, I don't know, humbling. It means a lot to me that you guys are willing to put down money for this stuff, especially for someone who's new and unexperienced like me. It means so much to me. It really does, and I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I'll have to edit in like a drum roll out there. But anyways, this heartfelt thank you aside, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.